breaking news. Cutting emissions to zero is a huge win. Now that might seem kind of obvious. Of course, working to stop climate change is awesome. But what if one country worked hard to decarbonize and no one else bothered, and all that climate change still happened? But we'll get to that in just a moment. First, we need to talk about what stopping climate change actually looks like. Stopping climate change means every country in the world pulling their weight. It's like some massive group project. Okay, so let's divide up the work fairly. You can do the introduction, I'll do the middle, and you can do the conclusion. Yep, sounds great. I'll definitely do that. Yes, great idea. Or we could just order pizza and watch Euphoria. So it seems the world has a choice. Either pull together and work hard to get the job done, handing in a killer climate change project. Well, we have done it. We've done the whole assignment together. Yeah, well, I hope our professor likes it. Well, I hope she likes, comments, and subscribes to it. What does that even mean? Or everyone can be lazy and ignore the problem and the dire consequences it'll have on their future. Well, we did it. We failed our assignment. But we finished season 2 of Euphoria. I still don't get it. Who is Euphoria? A new study investigated how these two worlds, the world of climate change champions versus the world of climate change slackers, would affect one particular country, the UK. The study found that the UK would benefit hugely if everyone collaborated on this cutting carbon team project. In fact, the UK would be about 10% better off in a world that kept warming to 2 degrees versus a world that let the planet warm by a whopping 4 degrees Celsius. So how would this extra warming harm the UK? Well, some of the harms would be direct from things like extreme weather events, but the biggest threat to the UK would actually come from catastrophic disruption to the global economic system. It seems that no country is an island, even the countries that literally are islands. And of course, many countries will face even worse climate change damages. Lower income countries will be devastated by direct impacts, whether that's extreme weather events or sea level rise. But look, you might be thinking, well, so what? It's obvious that working together to get the job done is the sensible thing to do in the long term. And sure, but there is another possibility for how things could go down. Okay, so I've got that conclusion done. How's the rest looking? Oh, yeah, we didn't bother. But we did learn a cool new TikTok dance. No, I said you start with the left. Well, look, you've made the dance too difficult. Wait, so you mean I did all this work and we're still going to fail? This sounds like a worst case scenario if one country spends all that money decarbonizing, but then still has to deal with all that climate change. So this study investigated precisely what would happen to the UK in this situation. Cannot believe that I'm the only one who actually ended up doing any work. Oh wait, look, we've got an email from the professor. Well, obviously read it out. Anyone who does their share of the team project will still pass, even if they were let down by their lazy teammates who didn't bother. Well, this is great news. Now, does the email mention any extra credit for TikToks? So it's worth the UK cutting their emissions, even if the rest of the world doesn't. Wait, how does one country fighting climate change help them if no one else joins the fight? I mean, the climate would still change after all. Well, fighting climate change does so much more than just fighting climate change. The study shows that if the UK cuts its emissions to zero overall, this is the net zero by 2050 climate change target that the UK actually has, this will have serious benefits to the UK, even if no one else bothers and the world still warms a ton. For example, it will hugely improve health by lowering air pollution and reducing the burden on the health system. It'll stimulate investment in green industries and infrastructure, boosting the economy. So even though all that climate change would still be happening with devastating consequences, the UK would still be better off than if they hadn't bothered to decarbonise. It's what the study calls a no regrets policy, because whatever else happens, there are zero regrets to getting to net zero. And the truth is that, thankfully, this situation isn't happening. Many countries are moving to cut their emissions, whether it's the giant China building breathtaking levels of renewables, or countries the world over planning an end to coal use. So even if progress is all too slow, it's clear that the UK is far from going it alone. But there's something else to consider as well. This study looks at how cutting emissions would benefit the UK, but the UK cutting its emissions to net zero would benefit the whole world. I mean, this is a group project after all. As the study puts it in the very final line, a net zero United Kingdom would simultaneously benefit its own economy and economies around the globe. So look, I actually found this study weirdly optimistic. Teamwork is hard, and it's not made any easier when the way you organize your team is the Paris Agreement, which basically says everyone can do however much they want, and let's just hope that adds up to a good project. And right now, the UK is actually falling behind on its net zero commitments. Worse still, candidates for Prime Minister have proposed abandoning this target, arguing that it holds the country back. But this study shows that even if a country like the UK is just looking out for itself and no other country has the team player attitude, well then it's still worth the UK cutting their emissions to zero. And if everyone joins in the team project, well then it's hugely worthwhile. All of this means that the UK has net zero excuse for dragging its feet on its net zero target. And it's a reminder of just how much we have to gain by fighting climate change. Oh my god, we did it! We got an A in our assignment! But in the end, the real reward wasn't the grade, it was the friends we made along the way. No, it was the grade. I never want to see you again. Oh look, another video you can watch. This video though was made with support from the European Climate Foundation, as well as patrons like Thomas Burkitt, who get access to things like early previews of videos and outtakes. If that sounds like a good time, you can join them over here. Okay, until next time. Bye. Comments and subscribe.